thank you for coming to enjoy the last day of this little visit, which has been wonderful. So let's enjoy it together. We have two main topics today that I want to accomplish with you, which is looking at the aspects of refuge, which are more esoteric, if you like. So really, you know, when we take refuge, we go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And that is the general rule of thumb for all Buddhists. So if you did take refuge through a ceremony with a qualified teacher, then what you would be doing is saying the refuge prayers and following the precepts, which we can go through a little bit later. But what we're going to look at today are the elements that are very visible and tangible and something you want to really know about in certainly Mahayana Tibetan Buddhism, which is guru, the place of the guru and the disciple relationship, and what is called guru devotion, and looking at the way in which the Buddha manifests what are called the bodies of the Buddha, so that we get an understanding of how we are making contact with what I suppose you would call divine energy, yes, this enlightened energy. So that's what we're going to hear about, meditate on, and discuss, just like yesterday. So we'll see how that goes and what time it takes and how you respond to that. I would like to give just a little bit of time to giving advice about if you do want to renew your vows, you know, take refuge again. That's always a nice thing to do. Or to, if you decide that you would like to be an engaged practicing Buddhist and take refuge. Yeah? Okay, so I actually have some prayers, which for those of you who are practicing Buddhists will be very familiar with. And those of you who aren't, who haven't taken the plunge, just consider them. Just consider them. Because I think it's nice today to take refuge together and to say the four immeasurable thoughts, which is really such a generation of love and compassion, you know, the basis for developing bodhicitta, that one can't ignore them. And personally, I think that taking refuge and saying four immeasurable thoughts every day is a fantastic little practice. So if you haven't taken refuge, then just look at them and consider the words and see how that feels to you, whether you could do that 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening, something to consider. So let's all together, with feeling, say refuge, bring down the objects of refuge, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And here we can focus on the outer objects of refuge. So a wonderful visual representation of the Buddha. And if you want to sit before your shrine and open your eyes and look at them, that's wonderful too, because you're making a great imprint. It's searing on your consciousness. That's what our sight is so valuable for. But equally, you can visualize in your mind. So having a statue or an image of the Buddha is really helpful. And usually when we become Buddhists, we have a little shrine in our house which has a representation of the Buddha. And the Dharma would be represented by Dharma books. You see the wonderful texts in gompas such as this, all wrapped, so beautiful, incredible craftsmanship gone into those. And equally our own Dharma books that we it's so easy for us to get. So to have few on the shrine, just a few, is a lovely thing to do. But equally, one can get a stupa. You can get representations of stupas, little statues of stupas to put on your shrine. And the Sangha, normally we would focus on our teachers, our gurus, more of that later, and Arya beings, teachers who we believe to have attained emptiness, who have great wisdom and compassion. So you will see on the shrine behind me images of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. In particular, you may have your own teachers who you put on the shrine, and they're all there as your reliable, trustworthy Sangha who are guiding you on the path. So if you're visualizing, and you can visualize the Buddha, and we visualize this wonderful array of books, texts, and our teachers. Just bring them to mind and then say the prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Buddha until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment, doesn't want to get rid of that one. Stop share. Stop share. Try again. Why is it doing that? I'm not sharing that at all. Another little technological problem here. So why is that coming up? Yes, please. So we go to share screen and we go to basic and we select refuge PowerPoint. Yeah?
Okay.
Now we go to advanced, and we select the portion of the screen. Now we go to share.
Okay, so don't select portion on the screen.
So it's doing portion. Hang on, what if I get rid of that?
It's the portion of the screen that is doing.
The simplest solution. Occam's razor. Yeah. Sorry, is that okay? Did you say push it? Is that okay for everyone and everybody up there? Okay. Now we can see what we're seeing. Oh, right. Excuse me a moment. Okay. The guru. The role of the guru in Tibetan Buddhism. Now, I don't know if those of you who are on Zoom saw the film last night. There were technological problems. Erin says yes. So some of you will have seen it. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend it, especially if you're going to be taking teachings from Geshe Zopa, who was the heart disciple of Lama Kunchog, and the film was about them and their relationship. And those of you here, if you saw it, it would have been useful. But you will have your own experience. And if you've been a practicing Buddhist for a while, you will know about the role of the guru in Tibetan Buddhism. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the role in any other Buddhist tradition, although I know that in other Mahayana traditions, you have people like Thich Nhat Hanh, you'll be aware of, the great Vietnamese guru who died quite recently. And I'm sure in Theravadan traditions, there are senior teachers who have their own disciples. But where I'm coming from is I want to say this because it's my only experience, is Tibetan Buddhism. So the role of the guru in Tibetan Buddhism is really, really important. But I'll say at the beginning that this does not mean to say that we, as students of Buddhism, should be rushing around trying to find a guru. Yeah? It is not a thing that you grasp at. It will come, and it will come naturally. And it's a very important relationship for one's progression on the spiritual path. But there are many, many layers. And especially, I think, now that Tibetan Buddhism has moved to the West, we need to take great care that we're not just trying to copy something which is very much part of the monastic life in Tibet and in Tibetan monasteries as they exist now, like in Kopan in Nepal. So with our relationships to our teachers, it's always advised that we recognize that they have incredible qualities. And in doing so, we are often encouraged to see them as Buddha himself. Because if we see the gurus as Buddha, then we accordingly get Buddha's blessings because our attitude to them is very different. But when we see them as Buddha, we do not see their ordinary human, perhaps even failings or faults that you might come across in a long relationship. You are connecting to the fact that they are on the bodhisattva path and that they have achieved great levels of wisdom, and probably they have realized emptiness. And if they are returning and recognized, like we saw Lama Kunchog returning and being recognized, then who's to say they're not Buddha? We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know. So a lot of this is down to our own experience. One of the problems we have when we come into this situation of taking refuge and relating to the teachers is we do grasp at them. And we want to be the favorite student. We want a special relationship. We want to feel as if we are special spiritual practitioners. So we may ask or assume that we have a relationship with a teacher that we're not yet perhaps ready for. Because to be ready for a relationship with a guru, we ourselves need as many qualities that are going to make that successful as the guru has, different kinds of qualities, obviously. Yeah. So that's the essential thing to see, that when we're talking about guru devotion, this may not be something that you enter into now, or indeed ever enter into lightly. Because basically, once you enter into that relationship, you can, and I will, for those of you who didn't see the film, it doesn't matter because I'll explain that Geshe Zopa was talking about how from a very young age, when he was a monk, Lama Kunchog took him as his heart disciple, and everything Lama Kunchog said, he did. So when Lama Kunchog died, he actually says this in the film, since I was a child, if Geshe-la said, if Rinpoche said this, I did that. If he said this, I did that. Now nobody's here to tell me what to do. Yeah. And we're not talking about, having dinner or when to wash your socks or I don't know what they do in monasteries, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about what to do spiritually. And that is another factor that comes into Western students' relationships with lamas and geshes, is they think they can go to them for all kinds of secular advice, And I do remember that happening a lot. We were a crowd of young people, and I think the lamas got sick of us asking them about boyfriends and girlfriends and this, that, and the other. And in the end, we were kind of sat down and told to, this is about, come with your spiritual questions. Yeah, you can make up your own mind. And I'm sure that was probably behind Lama Yeshe telling people, I trust your inner guru, because we can get over dependent. So you see, it's a very fine balance, and we will know when we are in a relationship with a teacher where what they say we do because it is for our spiritual development. Yeah. And of course you can go to the Lama and you can say, I'm not sure this is right, and then you can negotiate to some extent. But basically, if they are your guru, you will do what they say regardless. So I just want to take you to this little, where is that little image? We'll come back to these, but there's the, as we're talking about this now, there's a little image there of Martha the translator with Milarepa, yeah? And that's such a classic story of the guru-disciple relationship as we need to understand it. So, the life of Milarepa, I don't know if you know, but anyway, he was from Western Tibet, close to Nepal, and it was about 11th, 12th century, around that time. He had a very hard childhood and a rather dark youth. He was only 7 when his father died, and his mother and his relatives kind of took over the property and mistreated the family, the mother, Milarepa, and siblings. So the mother was very bitter, full of revenge, and she said, She sent Milarepa to train in black magic. Well, there you go. There's a story for you. But, you know, in the 12th century in Tibet, that's what they did. Okay. So, which is why you get so many prayers which talk about spirits and demons and things, because you're working with elements and things in nature that we don't feel we have a, you know, we relate to. But this is not a myth, that this has kind of come down through time, and he definitely existed as a saint. So Milarepa went off to train in black magic, and then came back to wreak revenge on the family, ruin their lives, and anybody who had upset his mother. So, you know, he was being very loyal to his mother. Was it a guru relationship? Interesting, eh? Because he sort of had that faith. He'd gone to do something, so he had a very strong connection with whoever was guiding him, and that time it was his mother. So that's quite an interesting side to the story, because she sent him down perhaps a dark route. So anyway, he turned out to be a great magician of black magic, and unleashed a tide of revenge, killing many, many, many people in the process. So anyway, so he did that, and then later on, he started, I guess, it's interesting, isn't it, as well, that at some point he was like, oh, what have I done? So he was full of this magic and power and revenge and kill, but at some point afterwards, something arose in him that it was wrong. So, of course, at that time, you know, we're also talking about the practice of Buddhism, and so, and the understanding of karma. And he started to think about his karma, and was very regretful. And he realized that in his adolescence, he'd committed some heavy negative karma. So he attached himself to a Nyingma Lama, and then, but that Lama observed, and this, you see, if you're new to the Dharma, you'll start to understand that when you do develop your spiritual self, certain powers come along which are also ascribed to the Buddha, of clairvoyance. Yeah. Now, obviously, many gurus have this as well, because they're well along the path, if not having achieved it, because we don't know. We're looking at them with ordinary eyes. Okay. So anyway, he realized that he had a great connection to Marpa, who was known as the translator. And so he sent Milarepa to Marpa. And then when Marpa saw Milarepa, he realized that he had loads of purification to do. Yeah, loads of purification. So purification, this all comes into Guru devotion. So it is relevant to you. So purification is another very important aspect of Buddhist practice. So when you get involved with Buddhist practice, yes, you're working on your psychology, but you're also understanding that the non-virtues you've committed have kind of stained your consciousness. They're quite heavily imprinted, and probably from past lifetimes as well, because they've become habits. So we have within our practices, purification practices, which usually entail, you know, making 100,000 of many things, 100,000 prostrations, yeah, 100,000 mantras, and your teacher will tell you. So this is where we start to realize that we may not have this incredibly strong link like Marpa had with Milarepa, to come back to, but we do take advice, and we are given advice by our teachers. We're so lucky, because they can see our minds, and they know whether you need to do purification or not. Yeah. And having said that, you know, my own little story interspersed here. when I finally went to see Lama Yeshe at Manjushri Institute, not because I wanted to, but because I was sent for, always trying to escape gurus, me. He said, so I believe you are going to India. And I said, yes. He said, what are you going to do there? And I said, well, I thought I'd hang out on the beaches in Goa. And he said, this is what you will do. You will go to Bodh Gaya and do 100,000 prostrations, and then you will, etc., etc. I didn't even know what a prostration was. I came out, and my friend said, what did he say? What did he say? I said, is it something about, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 or something? Prostrations at Bodh Gaya? Where's Bodh Gaya? So that was, you went 100,000 prostrations at Bodh Gaya? So I didn't get to hang out on the beaches in Goa. So I did, you know, that something I did actually do that I was meant to do. But this is what they do. This is what they do. They see your karma. They see your karma, and you need to purify. So purifications is all about, prostrations is all about purifying the body, and mantras is about purifying the speech. And it goes on, you know. So anyway, so back to Marpa and Milarepa. So Marpa sees that he's done all these negative things, killed all these people, practiced in black magic, etc., etc. So he says, okay, I'll take you as my disciple, but first of all, you have to purify. So he gave him an extremely hard apprenticeship. And there he is, lugging rocks. He had many trials, but some of the obvious ones that I remember is he had to build towers out of rocks and houses. And then whenever he'd finished doing that, I mean, goodness knows how long it took him, because he did it single-handedly and had to drag the rock. And there's Martha giving him a big kick. And apparently his wife gave him a few kicks as well. Yeah, along the way. As soon as he'd built them, he told him to knock them all down again because they were no good, and then to start again. So he had to do it with his bare hands. And then whenever they were built, he had to, with his bare hands, tear them down again. And Milarepa did it again and again and again. Now you tell me what kind of faith you've got to have to do that. But there was a connection. That's the interesting part of the story as well, is that the Lama saw that there was a connection between Marpa and Milarepa, which suggests that they went back into previous lifetimes where they had been teacher and disciple. Okay? So this is very profound and deep stuff, you know? As we could see, or you will see if you watch the film, the connections between practitioners and their teachers. So anyway, just to finish the story. So finally, Marpa perceived that he had purified his negative karma. Remember also that Milarepa knew. He didn't come to Marpa and want to be a student without recognizing that he'd done, without regret. The regret came first. He recognized that he'd done a lot of harm and he wanted to do good and he wanted to become enlightened. So there you go. Marpa gave Milarepa full transmissions of the Mahamudra teachings from Naropa, Matripa, and other Indian masters, and practicing these teachings in mountain retreats for many years, Milarepa. And there's lots of pictures of him looking green because all he lived on was nettles, got extremely skinny, must have looked quite mad, but he attained enlightenment. And then he gained fame for his incredible perseverance in practice, and for his spontaneous songs of realization he's known for. He would just spontaneously break out into song, which was all about the Dharma and pretty amazing story. So that is, let me go back now. That is a wonderful example on what I'm trying to convey about where we are on our spiritual path, what we're ready for, and who we meet and how that happens. So that is not to say that we're not going to, and some of us will have, meet our guru, our heart guru, the root of the path, as they're known as, yeah? Because it can happen. It can happen quite randomly. I know one woman who was doing yoga for some TV thing, and she turned the TV off, and there was His Holiness Song Rinpoche, and then she knew she had to find him. And then this was a woman in London, and when she met him, she sought him out. She kind of went into a whole kind of, who is this? And she found him, and he was quite a stern character, His Holiness Song Rinpoche, the older one. And when she met him, he was so full of love for her, and it turned out that she'd been an attendant in a previous life. So she's just, a regular lady working as an architect in London. So that's possible too. I'm not saying it has to be Tibetan, it can happen. It can happen like that. And then they remained very close. And he even gave her instructions when he was dying where she could find him. And then she went with some other people. So she was key, this woman, in this particular relationship with this Lama. Quite fascinating how it's jumping into the West in that way. Yeah. So, okay, let's move on. So the guru, one who has gained mastery over his or her mind. So if we are looking and assessing as we do, this is what we are noticing. And of course, another great example of the guru-disciple relationship is within the FPMT itself. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was Lama Yeshe's heart disciple, and they were inseparable. And then when Lama Yeshe died, it was quite extraordinary. Quite a few of us recognized, having lost Lama Yeshe, who was such a charismatic character. And until then, Lama Zopa had been very quiet, studious, and someone who seemed to prefer to meditate, who would rather be meditating somewhere than, fronting this organization, which was going to travel all over the world. And when Lama Yeshe died, a few of us commented that Lama Zopa had taken on some aspect of Lama Yeshe, and that he became much more open and easy to communicate with, as if he was taking on that role because Lama Yeshe had died. There was a change. Yeah. And they do that. They take on aspects. And I think I've told you before, the picture, when Lama Zopa saw Lama Yeshe laughing in this picture I had, and he said, that's Lama working. That's Lama working. It was a shock because all of us think he's just full of fun and a clown, an actor, when he's up there, he's making everybody laugh, and he's just a real charismatic teacher in between the very serious moments. But their aspect is there to connect with us. So thinking about that, we can think in terms of, how teachers connect with us. They're only doing it out of their incredible kindness. So they have to have mastery over their minds. There has to be minimal emotional stuff going on. Absolutely minimal, if any. Total equanimity that they're manifesting for us. They're manifesting kindness, funniness, seriousness, wrathfulness. All of that is for us. It's not because they're, having a laugh over something, although it seems like that. They're full of joy, but it's also, if they're wrathful, it's not because they're cross. They don't have anger in the same way. So you check that out with the different teachers that you know of already and those that you meet. So they're called the root of the path because all our knowledge, all our practice, all our insights and qualities come from really the root of devotion to a teacher, or to our teachers, let's say at this point, So guru is also called the virtuous friend. The virtuous friend, not quite like other friends. You might be a little bit non-virtuous sometimes. So again, lots of fun, but the virtuous friend whose sole purpose is to guide us towards virtue. Yeah, because they want us to destroy our suffering. They can't destroy our suffering, but they're going to guide us as much as possible. So they will often tell, us as lay people, I'm sure, somebody like Geshe Zopa would just do anything for his Lama. But again, from experience, I've seen people, and the Guru said, it's better you not go with that person. When they're so in love, they go with them. And I'm not talking about me here, I'm talking about other people. I've seen it. And they will get married and have a baby, and then it'll all go wrong. And then they're like, So this is our issue on a normal level. It's our issue is that we're trying to keep things going. And yet, if we have a relationship with a teacher, all they want you to do is to follow your spiritual path that's best for you. And if that means to go away and be a good mother, they will tell you. They do. I've seen that as well. You think they're going to tell every woman the same thing, but they don't. See your mind. But very hard, very, very hard for us to follow, as we know, the strict, narrow spiritual path, you might say. Yeah. So they need to know the Lama path to enlightenment, and they need to have the 10 qualities of a Mahayana teacher. And they also, as I've said, need to understand the psyche of the disciples so they can give correct advice. And they have the psychological means and methods to guide you. If we just think of examples, we know, Lama Zopa. I don't know if you've met him, but Geshe Sherab. Okay, Geshe Sherab. And because of their training, and their life experience is so different from ours, their total focus is spiritual development. So, and you will have your own experience of whether Geshe Sherab has, first of all, a general understanding of the American mind, yeah, and then a more specific Santa Fe kind of mind, yeah, and then an even more specific, if you have a relationship with him, your kind of mind. And it is that it's this awareness and mindfulness, this sensitivity, which they've been trained to do. And the more you do spiritual practice, the more kind of insightful you get. So if that's a constant, that is going to be a key factor. Okay, so so let's just have a look at these 10 qualities. So a mind subdued through the 3 higher trainings, that's ethics, concentration, and wisdom. So it's the path of virtue. And then the stabilizing the mind, which goes together with what I said a bit before, that they've managed their minds. Yeah, they know they're able to stabilize their minds. So subdued, a mind subdued. Okay. And that's really important, because we will know when we try to meditate, there's so much stuff going on that there's quite a lot of excitement. The mind gets quite excited. It can also get very drowsy. So those are the 2 main barriers to stabilizing the mind, is this excitement and then drowsiness. So they have very stable minds because they're not excited by what's going on with this person, that person, and, you know, cultural events or whatever. They're quite sort of steady, so it doesn't get too excited. And, you know, they're living quite a simple life, so their food is more simple. They maybe won't even be eating things like onions and garlic, you know, what are called the black foods that excite the mind. They're totally focused. The total job in life is subduing their mind and practicing ethics. I mean, can you imagine? It's just extraordinary. So just the fact they're doing that means they're quite extraordinary individuals. More qualities and knowledge than the student. Well, that's the minimum. Yeah. And that's kind of obvious. A wealth of scriptural knowledge and oral transmissions. This is really important. They will be training, but also the oral transmissions is knowing, because there is this fantastic tradition of you can trace back, you know, this teacher got it from this teacher got, and when you go all the way back to the Buddha, yeah, so that you know you're getting the oral transmission. It's like getting teachings from the Buddha. It's the closest we can get to getting teachings from the Buddha. Insight into voidness doesn't mean to say that they have achieved liberation and nirvana, but they have insight. And again, if you talk to teachers who are practicing a lot, and they say, "No, I haven't got emptiness," but it's there. It's there. It's like there's a link somehow. They know it's there. Well, I haven't quite got there yet. Enthusiastic perseverance in teaching the Dharma. Well, I was talking to Rabina about this because it is extraordinary. You can be really tired, but when you teach the Dharma, you get energy. It gives you energy. And Rabina said the same. She can feel really tired, really don't want to teach. And once she gets up there, boom, because it's something to do with the Dharma, you get that incredible energy. So if you haven't got it, I have never met a teacher who's sat out there going, "Can we have tea now?" Don't really do that, do they? And with Lama Zopa, you'll be lucky to get him to finish. And he'll only finish because, you know, Venerable Roger or somebody will go, "Rinpoche, it's 3 a.m. And he'll go, "Oh, sorry," and then he'll go because he knows you're all tired. But once he gets going, yeah. So plenty of enthusiasm there. Skill in teaching to the different levels of the disciples. Again, we've spoken about this, you know, how you can have a room full and somebody will get this and somebody will get that. And it's like that, you know, he was speaking to me. I'm sorry, I'm saying he. The majority of our teachers are he. The females are there, but the ones in our tradition at the moment, Kajralao is out there. So excuse me, that's also my own personal experience has been mainly from male teachers. That will change, that will change. So yeah, knowing all the disciples, not just, oh, well, I'm here to teach emptiness, so I'll make it, you know, nobody will be able to understand it because I'll teach it at the high level I know. It's like They want you to learn. It's not about showing off what they know. You know that. You know, the way that they teach, they're connecting with us. Very different kind of style of teaching. Loving kindness and patience. So to be free from worldly concerns, yeah, putting future lives ahead of this life, knowing our potential, and planting the seeds, and putting us before themselves out of great compassion. Yes. So faith, you know, can we do it? You do need enormous faith, but faith can be encouraged. It is a quality. And faith perhaps is something we, as people who may have come from other religious traditions and been instructed to have faith, have become a little bit cautious of, let's say, yeah? So when you do meet your root guru, I think that faith arises naturally. And we need to take care, because there are examples. I'm being very cautious how I say this, but there are examples, and I really want to make it open and transparent, of some teachers coming to the West and maybe abusing their position or getting getting kind of overwhelmed by the freedom of the West. Yeah. So if they haven't realized emptiness, they're prone to downfalls, as we call them, as well. So not blind faith, and take great care. And I myself have been in a religious schism, and I know from bitter experience of myself and many others that if you get enthusiastic, it's much better now because there's more guidance. But if you get enthusiastic and you meet these Tibetan Lamas and you think they're Buddha, and you're told that they're Buddha, and you're having great faith, and then suddenly something happens, it's extremely damaging. Yeah. So best not to get there at all, and take great care with who you are. And again, you can have teachers and think, well, they might have faults, but teachings are amazing. Yeah. That's what's helping me. That is what's helping me. And I'm connecting with that spiritual aspect of that person. And then just the best thing to do is to leave anything that you're a bit doubtful about alone, or if you need to, you know, there is actually guidance within the FPNT of measures you can go to if you feel a teacher's overstepped the line. Needs to be said because they have great power. They do have great power, and they are, you know, they look extraordinary. Their lives are extraordinary. What they know is incredible. It's nothing like we've come across anywhere else. So we need to take care we're not putting them on such a high pedestal that when they fall, we're damaged by it, because we'll never have faith again, you know. So we do need to have faith. It needs to be developed over time. We need to be incredibly sure who we are entering that relationship with. And I'm not talking about teacher, student. I'm talking about guru, heart disciple relationship. Yeah. You understand that? You know, it's difficult. It's sometimes difficult to talk about. So faith through seeing their qualities, respect by remembering their kindness. Yeah? Incredible respect for the simplicity of their lives. So there are infinite benefits, obviously. If you enter a guru-disciple relationship, it's said that, you know, it's really speeded up. Your path is really speeded up because they will take hold of you. And I remember one monk saying to me, Rinpoche said to me, follow me and I will take you to enlightened in every future life. I will take, you know, follow me, and in every future life, follow me, and I will take you to enlightenment. And Rinpoche said that to that student, that particular student. That was the relationship. Extraordinary, yeah? So it does happen. It does happen all the time. So many benefits and many disadvantages to failing if we break devotion. So that's what we have to be careful of. You know, it's meant to be a kind of almost like a heinous crime, really, if we break devotion and go against our gurus. So, right, okay. So enough. There's probably more to talk about, but you know that you are getting guru devotion teachings from Geshe Zopa, and that will be incredible because that's a completely different perspective. Yeah, you know, he will have so much to offer. So do try and get that, because I think teachings on guru devotion are really valuable on our path, because we meet such incredible beings. We do. Okay, so yeah, just the benefits. I'll read you this little list. You will come closer to Buddhahood. You will please all the Buddhas, because the Guru encompasses all Buddhas. You will never lack a spiritual teacher in future rebirths. You will never be reborn in lower realms. And negative karma is purified by following a Guru with faith. You'll never be overpowered by inner and outer hindrances. Mental afflictions and compulsive bad habits will be curtailed, subdued. You will achieve short and long-term aims, and you will complete, finally, the accumulation of merit and wisdom. So fantastic. So I think you need to talk about that, yeah? Because there's a lot, and you'll all have your own experience, and then we can come back with some feedback. So this quotation, you discuss this quotation in your own relationship with teachers. So I'll just read it for you. You might want to take a note. If a person steps off the porch of a house situated on the edge of a cliff, though he may not wish to fall, he must. In the same way, if one practices guru devotion, one will certainly gain spiritual insight. Nagarjuna. So, would you like to talk about that for 20 minutes? And come back at 11:25. Yeah? Or would you like a little stretch now and get together at 10 past and talk till 30:30? What do you want to do? Yeah, okay. Yeah, little break now. All you people up there, I'm just going to get you all down here. So what we're saying here is we're going to have a stretch and absorb, and then at 10 past go into group discussion until 11:30. Can you? Okay. So here we all are. Everybody? How many groups do we have down here? 2 or 3? 3 groups. How many groups did you have, Shayla? 3. So we want to hear from 6 groups. Yeah? So let's see what we get from everybody. Be aware that not ultra brief, but you know, just one thing, one particular comment or observation or feeling. You're going to grab up the essence of your discussion, yeah, to give back to the whole group. Okay. So let's start in the room. and then we'll go up and do it like that. So do we have a spokesperson from one group, please? Any spokesperson? Thank you, Christopher. Got a little bit of interview.
I don't know if everybody in the group felt this, but it's pretty apparent that the whole analogy in that quote you had about falling, which is basically letting go. I noticed similarities in everybody's stories it was kind of a destined fall, and just I never would have let go like that at any previous time in my life, so it was just kind of noteworthy. I thought that I heard that in the other stories. Yes.
Falling. Oh. Heart opens up and that's it. Would you agree? One person from
The audio is garbled.
Is that better?
Yes.
And there's no static now. Brilliant. There you go. Okay. One group, one spokesperson, please. Who's going? Be brave.
I'll go. Aaron and I had a quick conversation about how we find guru devotion rather scary or intimidating, and we actually prefer baby steps of a relationship with a teacher-student first.
Great. That's well, that's good. So I don't know what you said at the beginning, apart from it. Was it a bit obscure or a bit intense or something like that? But what I picked up on was baby steps, and that's absolutely great advice. Unless you're grabbed by the hair by a guru, baby steps, yeah, and that's the way to do it. So thank you, Karen. Yeah, and anything that does seem, I've said this before, there are many teachings and many layers to Buddhism, and we come in at our own place, the place that we have some karmic connection with, and we go forward. And anything that we don't understand, rather than be critical of it, it's good just to put it to one side. We just leave it to the side. I don't understand that, and I'll come back to it later, or I'll ask somebody qualified, or discuss with the Sangha. That's the way to do it, and just take these baby steps. Very healthy. Great. Thank you, Karen. Okay, let's come back to the room. Coral.
Hi. We found similar to everyone was what's been shared already, was that there was an acceptance of following our intuition. And
Whoop. Oh. It's on, but you're probably holding it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
that's
can you
better.
hear me now?
Can you hear now?
Can you hear me now? Okay. We found similar to what has been shared already, and that there was an acceptance to following our intuition. It's like a trust level, yeah, and that we all felt like we were just listening to it and being willing and open enough to follow it and listen to it and work with what came up and keep working with what came up.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just going to restate it to check we've got that. So basically you're saying it's you go at it from an intuitive feeling, a relationship. Sorry, Coral, I'm just checking. Sorry. It's an intuitive experience that you have that trust that they're giving you something, and then from your side that makes sense. So it's not like you're being told to do something that is impossible and fills you with fear. It intuitively feels right. And thank you. That's very important to have that experience. If a teacher tells you to do something, that you kind of inside go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's right. It feels right to you, rather than you going, there's no way, no, I'm not doing that. In which case you need to express it, because it has to be heartfelt and something that is achievable. Yeah. And sometimes the guru will give you practices to do that will take you your lifetime. So they will, I know that Rinpoche has done that on several occasions. This is your practice for life, or before you die, you can achieve this. Do it over many years. Do it over many years. Yeah. So that's also an aspect of when you're given some teachings. Great. Thank you very much. Okay. A second comment from another group, please.
Barbara or David, did you want to talk about ours?
Who were you with, Jayla?
With David or Barbara?
Okay,
David or
well,
Barbara? David, lovely.
yeah, I have a masala of a practice. I have two practices and it takes me a long time. I'll do one after the other. I have a Vedic practice and we have a guru that's dead and I have a teacher, but there were pictures of the guru's center, and in his center there was a photo of one of his mentors, Sai Baba, and there were a lot of sexual complaints against him. And I just mentioned it really was disturbing. Also, I attended a Zen monastery in the kitchen. I was just in the kitchen as an internship, cooking in the kitchen, and while I was there, complaints surfaced against the abbot, and I found it really difficult.
Yes.
And the women that were making the complaints, I didn't want to believe them because I really respected the abbot.
Yes.
And eventually he was removed back to Japan. And so that kind of, that was basically what we spoke about in the breakout room.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is a very important point, because I think you're expressing very clearly how painful it is when something like that emerges, which is possible. And I know that there is guidance, certainly in the FPMT, if anything untoward happens that you're questioning, there is a process of complaint now. So I think in the early days, nothing like that existed. We were living in a different world. But nowadays, with the emergence of some scandals and some, difficult stories to comprehend, there is guidance. So I certainly know that's true in the FPMT, and that we as teachers also get guidance on the way that we should behave, whereas we never used to. It was a given, and now we're not living in a world with givens. It has to be structured and clear, and definitely, as the point I've made before, unless we have realized emptiness, there is the potential of downfall. And we may view, a Tibetan monk, for instance, or a Zen monk as being incredibly pure and hold them up. And then if something like that happens, we're absolutely mortified and our faith is lost. And I have known people leave Buddhism, because they couldn't cope They couldn't cope with it. Yeah. But coming to the West and having all these students, so many women and monks, beautiful women, free, sexually free women and the same for, when you mention somebody like Sai Baba, it's or whoever it is or was, it's a huge temptation, and there are falls, and we've seen it. We see it everywhere. So I think it's important that we keep our faith, and this is really important, in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Yeah, that's our foundation. We go back to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha until we are in a space in which we can trust and grow faith again, because we're talking about a minuscule amount of transgressions. It is not the general, as far as I know, as far as I can see. Does that make sense, David?
If you would indulge me for a second, I've done the Tara Puja countless times, and it wasn't until I was involved in your teachings that it really made it personal to me and meaningful. And I just wanted to thank you. I mean, for example, I used to begrudgingly do the 21 taras, and I said, oh, this is going to take 15 minutes. And you gave me the insight that we're building energy, and made a huge difference. So I just want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm fairly safe. I'm old. Sex isn't on the table anymore. I'm sorry. I'm
Hey,
hopeless
speak
at
for
taking
yourself.
compliments. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely awful at taking compliments. I always resort to bad humor. But I do appreciate what you said, really, I do. But, limited being here, yeah? Limited being, I wish. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's come back to the group. Third group, where are you? With something, anything new to add? That's nice and varied we've had so far.
Andy, just in defense of older women, my 85-year-old great auntie once said to me with a wink, "Don't ever think it ever goes away, Karen."
I didn't get any of that. Something about being
Oh, too bad.
old and what? Unavailable. Well, I did
That's not what I said. I didn't say I'm available. I said my 85-year-old great auntie once said to me with a wink that it never goes away, Karen.
It never goes away.
Meaning the sex drive.
Oh, okay. Mute that woman, will you? Right.
Okay, moving right along.
Okay. Thank you. She's muted. Great. Thank you, Karen. I was going to say that, when I came to Santa Fe, it sounded so exotic. I thought, well, maybe I'll meet a silver fox and a Chevrolet. But you don't even drive Chevrolets anymore. So all my dream, really solid, sensible cars. Oh dear. Enough of that. Back to Guruji. Have we got any other? Yes, please, Elaine. Take us away from all this.
Well, I'm quite the novice to all of this. I'm really new to Buddhism.
Can you hear her? You can. You still need to speak up because I can't hear you.
All right. Well, I'm rather new to Buddhism, so I'm a novice. but we had discussed some of the schisms that had occurred and how tremendously painful that was for some of the people in my group. And as a human being, as humans, we are so fraught with these frailties, and it's our struggle. It's our struggle. And so I can understand that there are schisms that occur, and it's part of the human condition.
It is. Yeah.
But to find a guru who really speaks to you, you know, on a personal level, I think that's transcends all the noise and the static.
Thank you. Thank you. Because there's a couple of points there. I think, again, I'm not going to be here, unfortunately, but you have this wonderful opportunity to follow up what you've learned this weekend with Geshe Zopa's own personal experience, which will be incredibly inspiring and pure. Yeah. But yeah, I think certainly what we tended to do when Tibetan Buddhism came to the West is see the lamas as literally Buddhas. Yeah. So we are trained to see them as Buddhas in our practice and in terms of advice, but we misunderstood, and there was a mismatch between Tibetan Buddhist teachings and Western understanding, and they immediately became like the father figures. You know, finally I found a father who loves me completely and would tell me what to do. And we were quite, you know, mistaken with it. I mean, people would leave their children in their houses and go to teachings. Well, you know, Geshe-la will look after them. As if there was an idea that because you were in a Buddhist community and that you had this Buddha present, that nothing would happen to your children. Nothing did, but I'm just saying that it was a mistaken trust. I think there was a lot of mistaken reliance, as if, wow. And then when the schism in our community happened, devastation. But to be honest, I think it was more to do with Tibetan politics. But of course, it was manifesting for us. So we kind of, you know, in discussions afterwards, it would always be, well, we created this karma. So, you know, maybe in past lives, there were monasteries who were, you know, fighting our lamas better than your lama, because there was a lot of some, you know, competition and between the different sects, in the same way that His Holiness has said, you know, it was time that we came out of Tibet. So it wasn't all pure there. And then if we were involved in all that, then we come into this life and we learn through the schism. Very, very painfully, because it's like the biggest divorce ever. That's what it's like. And we're the children, and we're like, oh, all our dreams shattered. So you brought up two very important points there. Thank you. So that's the three groups here. So we've got a third group up here. What have we got from the third group? Anything?
Kathleen, do you want to say your experience?
Thank you.
Um,
No, not hearing you.
I'll just summarize what our group said, and that's we're all summarize. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Very loud.
Andy, can you hear? Excuse me?
Very loud or okay? Okay. It's okay.
It's okay. So we all agreed we're a little afraid or leery of scams. And we also agreed to that it's important to choose your guru wisely and observe the guru for a long time before choosing.
Yes. Well, I think that's a great summing up. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of wisdom amongst us all in to be grateful and take the teachings, but take care what we sign up to. That's all. That's all it is. And then if we've also got this recognition that we have this incredible insight, and there may definitely be an opportunity, then don't waste it. Don't waste it. Because from their side, the gurus will, in Guru Puja, Lama Zopa, there's a wonderful phrase which always stays in my mind, that they will hold you even by your fingernails. Yeah? Or your something like that, until enlightenment. So they will not let go of us. So if we get that relationship, hang on, because it's so precious. And on that note, I think we should finish for the morning. Yeah, it's 5 to 12, but that's fine. Extra 5 minutes lunchtime. So we'll see you guys at 2 o'clock. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody here. Thank you. Okay, great discussion.